Welcome back to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. Today we are so excited to have our friendly neighborhood cheerful goth, Angela Sylvaine, on to talk about the sequel to the amazing Frostbite, which is Cold Snap coming out in March. And we are so excited to welcome you to the show, Angela.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here too.
So I know you said where you're at in Colorado, it's actually really nice, but it was the
Yeah.
perfect weekend for me to read Cold Snap here in Pennsylvania because when they were talking about it being like a balmy 16, I'm like, you know what? We got to like 24 today. It's back down to the teens again. And I was like, oh, it feels nice out here.
It wasn't hateful.
It didn't actively try to pull me to go outside today, I guess. So, but I
Yes, that's
definitely,
one good part to you having some bad weather is that it set a mood.
oh, it sure did, I was right there.
I
Um,
am one of those people that I really do enjoy every season so much, and I love the ability to just, like, hole up and, I work from home, so I don't have to go out and brave the weather very often now. Uh,
Yeah.
it's helped my disposition towards it because when I used to drive in it where your bosses were like, "You still coming in?" Uh, then it was like, I hate winter. It was like counting it down, but now I really do enjoy it, but I was reading a little bit of the book to Adam. We were like Saturday morning, I was like, "Why don't you just lay down and I'll read aloud to you?" And it was some of these vibes. I was at the section where they're talking about how the purple, teal, and white snowmobile outfit matched the purple, teal, and white
so
snowmobile, and I was like,
Yes.
That's about right. She about nailed that."
yeah,
And wearing
Yeah,
my Charlotte Hornets jacket, that
that
I
is
had.
1998, 1997
That
for
was a
sure.
90
totally.
96, 97 Hornets jacket for me,
Yes.
and I wore it to Germany when it was 1 degree Fahrenheit, and,
That was a windbreaker, man, that is
that is
not a
not a winter jacket. I learned
no,
very quickly. I was how deeply unprepared. I always relate to that scene in, Christmas
Christmas
Vacation
Vacation.
where she's like, "She'll look at it later, Clark. Her eyes are frozen." Like,
Yes.
literally couldn't my eyelashes, my nose hairs, like, my soft pretzel went crack like a hard it was so cold, but anyway, you really hit the 90s spirit there for me.
I'm glad I gave you the vibes. In the 90s, I was in North Dakota, so those like wintry these
Mm,
vibes are real. I lived it.
Well, that's a great, like, thing to say, like, so much it seems like so much of your thought process, like, the idea of going outside, like, 6 months out of the year almost, it feels like you really have to plan
Yes.
so much about your trip, and I just wanted to get, like, some thoughts on that because like, that is so interesting, like, even if you're just going to Blockbuster, number of things you have to think about, right?
Yeah, and I remember, there was things like I always used to keep lock melter, like,
Mm,
in my purse. It's like a little thing you can put
yes.
in the your car key lock, on the outside to unfreeze the ice, and I had a block heater in my car because you had to plug in your car so that you could start it again.
I was just gonna say, it had a special, battery.
Yep, exactly. And when I first moved to Colorado, people always used to ask me if I drove an electric car because they thought that's what the plug was for, but
Oh.
that is not what it was for.
yeah, especially in the first book, like, there's that whole, section where they're talking about she's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna plug it in because I haven't been home that long," and I'm reading this and I'm like, "Hey, this is amazing. I have never heard of this in my life," but, you know, last weekend, my was that a cat that I
Yeah.
heard there?
We love when kitty cats join our show. The producer of our show is a cat.
Yes, that is true. And there's a fantastic cat in these books named Pumpkin that's,
Yeah,
orange tabby, but I was just thinking, we left our car I'm a teacher, and, over the weekend, I didn't start my car, and then it was been 6 degrees all weekend. My car completely was dead on
no.
and so I had to jump it with the other car that we kept in the garage, but I'm reading this and I'm like, "Yeah, I can imagine if it's
Yep,
that cold all the time, like, it just saps that battery, yeah."
that's right.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's right, you gotta really plan. Extra
You
ice scraper.
have you by chance been privileged enough to see the winter scenes in Yakutsk?
In what?
Okay, so if you've ever played Risk, there's
Ah,
a province up in northeastern, very close to Russia, but it's like one of the, and it's called, there's Irkutsk and Yakutsk. And is like they show videos of the layers upon layers of like wool special clothes that they put on. Building has like 2 to 3 doors to stop the cold of like
ah,
vestibules that you have. And I mean, it's like if you're outside for more than like 10 minutes, even with all those precautions, like, it's insane, but they're very jolly looking people, and I was
yeah,
like, I just try
party
to,
Yeah.
folk.
well, I just imagine how, I mean, they're showing, like, it was very fascinating, like, how the transportation still runs, but, like,
Oh,
the
yeah.
special things they have to do with the trains in order to, like, survive that level of cold,
Yeah, I
that
bet.
commute and stuff, so look it up, it's really pretty fascinating, and I was,
Okay, I'm gonna do it.
First time
yeah,
release.
I was really, like, impressed by there were, like, certain, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, the people that have been there for many, many years, like, they don't buy commercial boots and things like that, like, it is made, like, it's
By
like you
hand,
really
yeah.
wanna get
Wow.
a product that's made there because it's actually better.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's really cool.
Anyway, that's what this book made me think of, is, like, how would I act care?
Yes. Just I mean, there's a scene where, she's crying outside and it's frozen by the time it gets, like, to her cheeks, and things like
Yeah.
that. It's so evocative, and I love it.
What kind of research did you have to do for the coldness here? Like, did you bank on your North Dakota experience, or
Yeah.
did you go out and, like, try to throw water in the air?
I grew up in North Dakota and went to college there, so I was basically there, like, my whole life through college, so it came super naturally to me describe it all. It was like, vivid nightmares that were tattooed onto my brain.
I love it. Tattooed nightmare onto your brain, got it.
So I know we got into the cold because the cold is such a character in both of these books, but someone that's coming to this sort of duology as it is now, or at least a first book and a sequel, how would you describe to a reader the world that they're getting into with these two books? Like just your sort of
Mhm.
short elevator pitch overall.
You got it. So it's a 90s sci-fi horror comedy, and for, like, what I would compare it to, it's kinda like The X-Files meets Critters meets Stranger Things, and Frostbite is like the kind of setup to book 2 is Frostbite is about a small town in North Dakota that gets hit by a meteor that infects the hibernating prairie dogs with alien worms, and they rise and attack,
Hate
and
when that happens.
right? Those little buggers. And the 2 main characters, Raylene and Nate, have to basically fight to save their town from infected creatures and people while also battling a doomsday cult. So that's kind of book 1. And then Cold Snap takes place in the aftermath of book 1 where, people died and there was a lot of trauma and the town is kind of recovering from that. And Raylene is grieving the loss of someone very important to her and kind of like hiding and cutting herself off, while Nate is really determined to like move on and forget about what happened. And he heads north to Canada for spring break because that's what we used to do in North Dakota is go up to Canada. So he goes up there with his new girlfriend, and once he's gone, Raylene learns another half of the meteor actually broke off and landed near where he is. So she has to kind of like overcome her grief and fear and venture into Canada where they will battle alien infected animals, infected spring break co-eds, and a government cover up, all with the unexpected help of some UFO conspiracists. There you go.
Amazing. Like if you don't want to read these books now, like we're not friends, clearly. It it is the perfect thing, like, it's like, I love everything about this, and, it's funny, like, I love that Critters is part of the comp because I was obsessed with the Critters movies when I
Me
was
too.
and we used to have these trees that they're like, I don't know, whatever you wanna call it, not like a nut or a fruit, but it's like it would drop these little balls that were all had all these little, like, sharp points on them and stuff, and we always called them Krites, and they were the critters, and we would, like, roll them down hills and reenact things from the movie, when they all became that giant ball, and would
Yep.
roll over and there was only a skeleton left, like, we would just do that. So, like, there's a couple of nods to it in the first book, especially where I'm just like, "Oh, this is great." Because I almost forgot. I'm like, "Yeah, it's kinda weird that it's like these bodyguards from space that come
I know.
save everybody." Like, what?
It's so weird, and they're like shapeshifters who
Yeah,
match the, like, celebrities or
yes.
townfolk or
But
yeah.
they look at, like, a Bud Light like, a Bud ad of, like, the hot, like, model on it and, like, become one, like, that look like that and
Yep.
stuff. So funny. It's great. So, obviously, like, being set in the '90s had to have been so fun. Both of these books have amazing playlists that are part of them, but then I love the way that you kind of tie it into the story without it being, like, overdone, right? Like, because it's so easy to, like, just be overly nostalgic, but I love the way that
Yeah.
you realistic about the good and the bad of the '90s, like, in there, it's like the music, great, politics and different things, not so much,
Yeah, exactly.
so
Well, and I
in
think that's the trick with nostalgia too, is I wanted it to be noticeable, like, kind of almost a character in itself,
Mhm,
but not so much it takes you out of the story, you know?
yeah,
So, I had to get pretty nerdy about it. I was making, like, spreadsheets and recording how many different mentions of things from the '90s I had in each chapter.
This is amazing. That
Yeah.
really these are things that this is
Oh,
incredible.
I
Like,
love
the
that
amount
when
of
you're
effort.
yes,
Damn.
because I love the fact that the Blockbuster, like, I'm, like, thinking it's like it's, 97 or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, what are the movies?" It's like, "Okay, for Christmas," I'm like, "Jingle All" I was like, "Ah, I remember '96 December." Or Mars Attacks, I think, was December '96 too, and then, yeah, Independence Day, I'm like, "This is so great." I love, the homework, but I was wondering too because, you mentioned that Blockbuster was relatively new at that time in this town, and I'm wondering, like, in a place that's remote like this, was everything, like, just a little late? Like, because Blockbuster, I remember really well in, like, night like, I lived in Washington, DC at the time, and it was, like, '93, maybe '94,
Yeah.
and it's like, this is, like, '97, '98. I'm like, was it just takes a little bit longer?
Totally, yes, and I think that was kinda my experience in the town that I grew up in too, so it was kinda based on personal experience, but I think there's always a lag. You're always a little behind on, like, the new stores, fashion, like, all that kinda stuff. You're
Yes,
behind everybody else, you know?
and that Alien Resurrection, Titanic double feature, amazing.
Yeah, I tried that was kind of the fun part was to look at historical events and music and movies that would kind of accentuate whatever point in the plot was happening. So it was really a fun exercise for me because I
Yes.
love all that stuff.
Yes, definitely. So, I have to ask, did a prairie dog look at you sideways one day? Like, when did you decide, like, because there's other animals, but, like,
I
especially in the
know.
that is your main bringer of terror, and I'm
I
just like,
know. I hesitate to call them villains because it's unintentional, but,
well, it's like
um
Cujo, right? Or, like, when you get
exactly.
rabies or something, it's like the animal like, it's the rabies are the villain, the worms are the
Yes.
villain, not the animal, right?
That's right. They're kind of the victim, I guess, but yeah, I did grow up with a prairie dog colony behind my house when I lived in North Dakota. So I think that's where the idea first came from. But I think too, maybe it was sort of, I only realized this after the fact. Maybe it was like my subconscious way of allowing them to get revenge because actually growing up in North Dakota, hockey was very big.
Mm.
And it was actually gophers, not prairie dogs, but we used to have a, like, rival team in the town that I grew up in, and their mascot was the gophers. So, during the winter, like, people in my town would actually bring dead frozen gophers
No,
into the hockey arena in coolers and chuck them on the ice.
like the
So
octopi and
yes!
that's crazy.
Exactly, yes. And so I kinda wonder in my mind if I was like, "Those poor things, they deserve to get some revenge on this town for figuratively what was done to them," you know?
And they sure do. They sure do. No, I love that, and then, it's funny because it seems like you've always you because at the end of at least Frostbite had already had it sort of in there that a second one was coming. Did you already always see this as like a two-part kind of or at least two-part story? Not to say anything, but
So And I think the nice part about writing it kind of like a 80s or 90s horror movie is that's pretty typical, kinda like Critters, right? There's,
Right.
like you see the eggs under the porch at the end,
Yeah.
I think it is, or whatever.
The I
So
still know in the mirror.
yeah, exactly. So then you can if it is one book, I think it's still satisfying, but you've at least, like, left it open, and I think that's kind of true to the genre
Mhm.
to be like, "There's this one last little thing, maybe everything isn't totally okay now." So it's kinda convenient. Then if the book sells enough, then I can write another one.
There you go. Hey,
You
keep
know?
yourself
Like it.
employed. I love it. But
I do
go
have a couple quick questions here. So, first, what is your thought on people calling them whistle pigs? Because I really love that.
Hilarious name. I like all names for prairie dogs and gophers.
Yeah.
In Canada, they actually call them ground squirrels. So, yeah, it seems there's something that really has a lot of names, and I love that. It's pretty cool for them, I think.
I really thought, and there's like looking it up, I saw that there were like actually band names like the Whistle Pigs, which is
Wow.
the music I'm particularly interested in. But
Is it actual pigs whistling? Is that
no, it isn't actually. It's more just like a, I think it was more like a jazz ska kind of
Oh,
Yeah, I like
blending.
it.
Cool.
yeah, it just wasn't what my musical, like,
Okay.
not the one that I wanna, like, regularly listen to, but,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I just have always thought that was really, really cool, and
We had a picture book that was what, The Legend of the Whistle Pig or
yeah.
something like that, yeah.
Also, they're hated because they carry the bubonic plague.
Yeah, that's right. I
That they
remember
genuinely are plague
What's
carriers.
a little plague among friends? Come on.
and, truly, any animal can carry the plague in the right circumstances. My
Yeah, truly.
One of my friends actually had her cat run away several years ago. Well, not run away. It's like it was an outdoor cat and it didn't come back. And then eventually it came back and she took it to the vet and it turned out it had the plague.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's actually, if you're around it, like, okay, so it's about this time that I need to bring up my favorite podcast, which has nothing to do with books, which is Ologies.
Yes.
You love Ologies
Yeah,
too?
I love ologies.
My god.
Allie, right? Allie's the
Yes.
Yes!
host? Yeah.
Like, my favorite, and I just listened to the one all about donkeys, which is, or Assinology, which is fascinating as well. Anyway,
Yeah.
they're always great, but the the person who was dealing with the marmotas, the groundhogs, the marmotology, they were saying, like, if you're a science person, you just need to basic, like, studying them, like, you have to really look often for signs of plague.
Yeah.
Like, because it's, and there's not just one kind of plague, there's a few different, like,
Mhm.
versions that you can
Oh,
get. So it's like you just kinda watch for it to be like, "I think we got the plague, I gotta get treated for this," if you're, so I they're so damn cute.
I
so
know.
little known fact, I was obsessed with the Black Death when I was in school, and then that went to Ebola that I
Oh, yeah.
became, like, really hyper fixated on. So, this terrifies me and attracts me in a way that, like, is difficult to really put into words, but that's a rabbit hole I'll be jumping directly down sooner.
Well, I have to ask you, and I don't know, maybe you've already read it, but have you read Sarah Tantlinger's poetry book, Cradle Land of Parasites?
No,
It's a poetry book that focuses on the Black Plague and other historical pandemics.
thank you.
You know
It's
what?
amazing.
Haven't bought, I said bought. I
Bought the
have
tip.
not bought I have not purchased a Valentine's gift for you yet, so I feel like that sounds perfect.
That's beautiful.
What
Love
do
Yeah.
you think?
sonnets to the Black Death. I love it.
Cherish that.
I would, yeah,
I know. Well,
100%.
I got, what else? I got him before this, Angela. I got him a book on all the books that are actually covered in human skin throughout history.
Bound in Human Skin, which
Ooh.
I really thought was gonna be like
Gross, but
Evil Dead, like,
yeah.
this is, like, Damascus, like, BC. No, these are books from, like, the 18 and 1900s that were bound in
And
human
is
skin.
it fair to assume there's at least some Bibles in there? I feel like
So they used lots of different books, but yes, the Bible is one of the most popular
I
to do,
figured.
but then it was also a lot of doctors that stole
Mm,
skins from people.
that makes a lot of sense.
So they,
Yeah.
like, a lot of, like, medical texts and things like that were bound. Yeah, it's a fascinating book. I have to look at
It's
I'll
like
put it in the show notes.
you guys gotta look at the fine print here. If I treat you, I'm entitled to your skin.
That is way closer to what
Really?
happens than you would think.
Really?
I
I
mean, it
was
was
being
often
sarcastic.
no, it would often be dead bodies, and not surprisingly, it was marginalized
Of
communities that
course,
were
right?
often like this happened to. But, yeah, it's a horrifying thing, and they have
Wow.
them in I forget lots of different colleges, Harvard, like, all these have, like, sections where they have all these books that are at least thought to have been, and then there's, like, this group that just goes around and tests to see if they really are, and most of them are.
Apparently, it was very popular.
Yeah, exactly. One thing, that's interesting, going back 'cause
It's called
talk
I'm sorry, it's called Dark Archives,
yes.
a
Okay,
library
okay.
investigation into the science and history of books bound in human skin by Megan Rosenblum.
Yes.
That
It
sounds cool.
it is a fantastic book,
It's
it
an
really is.
anthropodermic bibliopegy. It's the practice is called anthropodermic bibliopegy,
Yep.
finding books in human skin.
Wow.
Audio as well, if you're an audio person, there's an audiobook for it. So it
I'm putting it on my TBR.
yeah, it's so good. But to go back, one of the other things that I love when it comes to, like, these and sort of, like, movies inspired, especially with the second book, all I could think about is Scream 3 when they bring Randy back because he did obviously rest in peace, Randy, he died in the second movie,
Mhm.
a very traumatic incident in
Movie?
my Randy in Scream 2
Oh,
died,
that
yeah.
okay, yes, I
It
said
was a
yes.
traumatic moment of my teenage life when that happened because all us horror fans were like, "Oh, we lived, yes, we did," and then what happens in that second movie was not right. But they bring him back in video in the third one, and they're saying, you're part of a trilogy, or you're part of, like, a legacy sequel kinda thing," when all of a sudden, all of these secrets from the past and all of this thing
Yeah.
and as I'm reading Cold Snap, I'm like, "Man, this is absolutely what Randy was talking about." No spoilers, obviously, but I love the way that the things that happen in the second book make you completely rethink and see
Yeah.
the events of the first one, and I was just wondering, did you have that all mapped out, or was that something when you sat down to write the second and you're like, "Okay, like, let's see, like, did it just come from that based on, like, what the plot of the second book was, or did you always have those things in mind? Because it's a lot of things.
Yeah, I think I had the general idea in mind, because in book 1, there is sort of a good guy, someone you think is good who doesn't end up being as good as you think. So I had already known that was gonna happen, and that just opened the door to all kinds of stuff, because that person touched a lot of people's lives. So then you start thinking, okay, how would this person, kind of being a bad guy, what could they have gotten away with secretly that no one would have known about? So yeah, I think I planted the seed and then it just kind of developed organically, which was fun.
Yeah, and I love that, and I love how while there are some really awesome animal moments in the second book as well. I love that overall it's a much more human-based book, and I think that the first book is very emotional too. I'm not saying it's not because there are some really sad things that happen, but I think, like, you amp that up in the second book
Yeah.
so where it's like it is like you've fallen in love with all of these characters, and now you're like, "How can I put them through the ringer emotionally as much as humanly possible?" And
I
you're
think you're
rooting by proxy.
on that because I think of Frostbite as a creature feature and Cold Snap as a book about grief that's a
Yes,
little bit more like the X Files. So their kind of vibes are different. So that's awesome that you picked up on that.
yes, not to mention the fact that I will forever be frightened of and probably was before, but especially now, of men in Speedos.
Same. You probably could have guessed I went into this not having a particular fondness for men in speedos and looking for an excuse to turn one into a rabid, crazed person.
Yeah, no, I do love how, grief and trauma kind of people react to it in very different ways, right? And, you've
Mhm.
got Raylene and Nate that are really it's kind of funny because in the first book, they've kind of switched places, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Nate was stuck and she wanted to leave, and now it's kind of the opposite where she's stuck and he's like, "I wanna get out of here." And it really creates this really interesting dynamic between them because they truly love each other, like, in that platonic, like, real way, but at the same time, they're like, I'm having these, like, traumatic things that have happened, and I have to look out for myself too, and, like,
Yeah,
going back and forth between, like, I wanna take care of my friend and I've gotta take care of myself is such a real thing that so many people deal with, right?
100%. And I think when you're going through trauma, even if it's shared trauma, you don't always process it in the same way. So
So true.
sometimes you have to part and then hopefully come back together.
And it's really
I mean, I
interesting.
feel like
Yeah.
in being married for this long with you, like,
Yeah.
we can go through the same thing, but we
Mhm.
definitely handle it differently.
Yep.
Yeah.
It
Absolutely.
that kinda sucks.
And I think their traumas were different. Again, not to spoil anything for anyone that has not read the first book, but they experienced very different kinds of loss
Yeah.
where it might be easier for one to move on than the
Mhm.
other. Like, sort of maybe they're not being as, like, either conscious or empathetic towards that, in that
Yeah.
kind of way that that works too. It's a really interesting dynamic.
Well, and I think it's true for a lot of us when it comes to grief that it's complicated, right?
Mm.
When
Yeah.
you lose someone in your life, like, for example, Nate in the first book doesn't have a very good relationship with his parents, and he grew up in a home with domestic violence,
Mhm.
which was true for me as well. I also grew up in a home with domestic violence. And so, as you can imagine, when my father died, that was like a very
Complicated.
complicated grief, you know? There's love and resentment and guilt and like all this stuff wrapped up in it. So, I think that's part of where my inspiration came in too, is going through those kind of things and seeing that, it's not so simple as saying, as always saying you lost someone and that's sad, right? There's a lot of other emotions that come with it.
Mhm.
I really think that's a fair thing to call out because, I mean, sometimes those things are said around Mother's Day of, like, no matter what your complicated relation or Father's Day and, it's or sometimes even Christmas, it's called out a little bit more, but, I mean, people die and traumas happen all the time, and you don't really think about how it can really have such a complex, like, you don't want someone to die, but you didn't have a great
Yeah.
relationship, so, I mean, I felt that way with my own grandfather where, like, my mom was, like, regularly seeing him and wanted to, and I just never had, like, a relationship with him, like, I always found him really terrifying since, like,
Yeah.
6 and, just not anyone I really wanted to know, like, I was like, I had this, like, very strong reaction, "I don't like you." Um, and we never, like, she saw him, but, like, we never really interacted with him in a grandfather's,
Mhm.
so when she, was like when, when he was close to dying, he's, like, in his 90s, and I mean, I was just like, "Listen, mom, I don't have the same relationship with him that you,
Yeah.
but I do love you, and I'm really sorry that you're going through this, and, like, I'll do whatever I can to support you, but at the same time, I'm trying to be honest with you, like, I can't see and I can't relate to these things." Like, she was just kinda
Yeah.
like, "Why doesn't anybody wanna go visit him?" And I'm like, "Well, because I think a lot of people feel the same way I do."
Mm.
And she didn't, and I felt
Yeah.
like she was hurting because it wasn't her reality with
Yeah.
her own dad, but most other people did have that reality, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
How do you be a supportive person while also being like, "This guy was kinda trash?"
And I think, that's something I feel like the younger generations are perhaps getting better at.
Yeah.
Is sort of looking at other people's entitlement, you know, and saying, I have a choice of what I give other people, and just having a relationship with them and sharing blood, for example, doesn't necessarily come with all the strings that an obligation that like earlier generations think it does. I actually think that's healthy. So,
Yeah, I do think so too, and it's not always something that I think, is gonna feel good if you're the recipient of it, but at the
sure.
time, you have to, like, understand that that person's making their own decision of what's best for them. Um, I think a lot about that song, the Tina Turner, "What's Love Got to Do with It?" And I
Mhm.
think that really kinda true no matter what situation that you're in. It's like there's no doubt
Yeah.
that, but maybe you just don't know how to get along with that
Yeah.
person.
And
that well,
frankly, with how things are in the world today, like, honestly, a lot of us are just trying to survive, right? So, when you're in survival mode, you have to start making some choices about how to get from day to day. And
that's where we're at, you know?
yeah,
I share that story about my mom, and I'm not trying to, like, abandon her, but she is we don't share the same value systems, and
yeah,
a lot of deconstructing coming from a Southern it was like, my grandmother was Southern, and there's a lot of expectations about how you take care of
yep,
mother and what the role of the daughter is and what is a good daughter and how much you know what I mean? And just a lot of that. And I'm like, I have 3 other siblings that live within 5 miles of, and it's like learning to say, I don't have to do all of these things
yeah,
and just saying, they're more aligned in what you believe. And it's really hard now because Adam's a lot faster in making these decisions. And, I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't think we can even go out to breakfast and not talk about things where I'm like, I don't we're so it's like everything comes back to I'm like, "How can I have this
yeah,
conversation with you if we're living in the same world and you're unwilling to acknowledge these things that are going on?" And I'm getting the feedback of, "Well, there's nothing we can really do," and this is why you just have to find ways to support in your own small town and, you know, even like the evangelical feedback of, "Well, it's gonna get worse before it gets better because Revelations proclaimed this," and
yeah,
it's like that sense and I've seen thank God for social media because so many people have shared that they're going through this with their parents, but just like, how can I talk to you? You're supposed to be my sense of safety
yeah,
in a world that's scary, and you don't see the same monster that I'm seeing
yeah.
right
Mhm.
and that in of itself is its own horror novel.
Well, and I
It's
think
like
that's
in Jonathan Janz's Book of Veil, and it's like, you don't
yeah.
see things that are coming in, and they're like,
Yeah.
"No, I don't see it," and it's like, "Oh my god, they're right here."
Mm.
I think that's part of why I write a lot about religious extremism
Yeah.
and cults. I've been interested in that for a long time, and just fascinated by how seemingly good, quote unquote, people and seemingly intelligent people can just be so caught up and brainwashed by these things. And I think, and we see that happening in our own families. And what do you do about it? It's just, I don't know, there's a solution.
I don't either. But there's the consensus going around right now of like, or thought of, do you waste your energy on people like this? Are
Yeah.
they going to convert? Because when they're in that heavy of a cult, it's like, do you wait for them to have the moment where because it's at this point, if you have all these facts in front of you and you're still finding ways, then I don't know that there is
Yeah.
anything more
I
that can
know.
be said. And that's hard for me because I'm definitely like an empath and
Uh-huh.
always wants to
We can
like
figure it out and, like, try to
yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, if I just and I've seen other people say like, there's no amount of if you just position the information
Yeah.
differently. And that's it's hard for me as a salesperson. I'm
Yeah.
like, I can do this. I
Yeah.
can and I can't.
Yeah.
They're unwilling.
And you want to have a logical argument, but it
They don't
isn't
want to
about
play by
Yeah.
logic.
they don't want to play by the same rules. They move the
Well,
goalposts all the time.
and that's what's interesting because, it kind of bridges the 2 books, right? Because Nate deals with this with his mom especially, right?
Yep.
Because his dad is a little bit more
Yes.
like, he's such an asshole that it's like, you're not getting through to him. But, like, with the mom, there's that hope, right? Because she's like,
And she's stuck though.
you
She's
get
so
those little
stuck.
Yep.
glimpses. But what really interests me, especially about this, is because, some heinous things happen with this cult, especially towards the end of the first book. But when we start the second one, it's like everyone that remains is just there still, right?
Yeah.
And what do you do then? Like,
Yeah.
you see these people every day, they're in your community still, and it's like, how do you move on from not just hating them?
Yeah. And
And
I'll tell
especially when
you,
you're not sorry, right?
that's right. I actually had, when wrote the second book, I had a couple beta readers tell me they didn't believe the cult would still be there. And I was like, nope, that's the feedback I'm not going to take because
Yeah.
when you look at the real world, you have all kinds of examples of like churches and cults where they are still around despite so
Oh,
much terrible stuff taking place. So you just realize that at a certain point, like nothing is going to work.
it's so interesting because, um, I was telling Adam wrote this book about do better, about men, and
Mhm.
basically taking this, like, all these men that you would think would fit with this type of what we're talking about, right? With this type of behavior, that they all kind of are extinguished. And I said, "Are you gonna write, like, a follow-up?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know." And I said, "You know what?" I said, "I can almost see the women that even though during that time that they were abused by these men and they're gone now, I can almost see the women being, like, becoming the problem of,
Mm.
like, these
Mm.
supporters of men like that, that now become
This makes
the
me laugh because she has not read the second book and doesn't know. You did this with Irene, right?
okay, well, usually okay, I have not, I always say that, one of us always reads the book,
Yep.
so but I was just you had told me about that, and so I was tying it in to say
Yeah.
that this was basically you and I had this conversation in June or no, it was August, and when we were driving back from a book and I was saying, like, could almost see that there would be women that start protecting this
Mhm.
and having that, and then
Yeah.
told me that this happened in the book with Irene. I'm thinking, "Wow," like, I love that you're like, "No, I'm not gonna take that type of feedback,"
Yeah.
because I genuinely feel like it never is fully snuffed out. The indoctrination or the parts that are, like, woven into the fabric of some ways that you've ever committed to this, it's still there.
Yeah, and if it's part of your whole identity,
Right.
especially later in your life, dismantling your entire identity is probably
Like,
almost impossible. You would most in most cases, you're probably just gonna double down no matter how bonkers it is.
well, I love that you both explored that so much because I feel like and I love that, things that we felt were so unbelievable, maybe, that are happening right now. It's like I've said that a couple times recently. I'm like, if this was written as a horror book, you'd be like, "Thi of what we're living through." I'd be like, "That's the
Ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
yeah, no, no,
Yep.
yeah." Um, and why do you think, like, just your opinion or when you're talking about that character with Irene, like, what is your you like, you feel that
I mean,
because she's always been raised that way or
yeah, I think well, ultimately, I think the reason she doubles down in book 2 is mainly because she does something so horrible that is such a betrayal that to admit fault in that would probably destroy her. So
so is that
she
judgment
has to think,
of, like, the ego or the id?
yeah, it's I don't know where it would sit psychologically, but it's like, yeah, it's a kind of an impossible truth for her to face about herself. So she has to lean into I'm doing what's right and I'm doing what's for the greater good is kind of my thinking on it. And I'm sure there are other people in the real world who it's like where's your line
Yeah.
where it goes so far you literally can't look back and go, "Oh no, what have I done?"
I think that, that absolutely, that makes a lot of sense, but I think also when I look at sort of like what happened in the town at large and kind of the way it's being dealt with in the second one, and it's almost like when there is a lie or an untruth at the heart of what like is happening or what was told to people, they're never gonna get over it too, right?
Yeah.
And like yeah, that so the cult is sort of like at the center of that, and so it's sort of like they can't let it go because of, not that they were not at fault for a lot of things, but they were essentially blamed for everything, right? And like,
Mhm.
while they on one hand, I'm like, "Hell yeah, blame them. They deserve that shit."
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's like there is this false narrative that's
Mhm.
happening that it's gonna come out at some point, right?
Yep. Yeah. It's almost like the ends justifies the means kind of an argument from the
I
good guys.
mm,
So
I love
then yeah. Then the cult is kind of like, "Hey, wait a minute, we're being attacked,
Mhm.
and there's lies being told about us," which is true, but on the flip side, you're like, "Well, they did so many bad things, they deserve it."
Yeah. I
well,
mean,
But
in
you
some
could
ways,
yeah.
like, the lie is actually not as bad as what some of the things they were
Yeah.
actually doing, right?
isn't that fascinating?
Mhm.
I really love that trope of for the greater good. There's the one movie that we absolutely love with Simon Pegg
Hot
and Nick
Fuzz.
Frost.
Yeah.
Hot
Yes, I love that movie.
The
it's just
greater good.
it is one of my, like, absolute comfort movies, and you can just see that that's how a lot of things are right now. It's
Yes.
there's it's just like, there was always that saying, like, "Don't cut off your nose to spite your face." I don't think people care anymore.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
It's
Well, and I
almost
do think,
I'll get what I want.
yeah.
you know, on the positive side, yeah, I do think, like, obviously, with all this conversation, all 3 of us have been thinking a lot about all of this.
Yes.
I have funneled a lot of it into my writing. But I think the other thing I have noticed as far as themes, like in Cold Snap, for example, is on the positive side about like the power of friendship. Like
Yes.
Yeah.
these two people they don't have any special skills. They just showed up, right? So they were just willing to do the work and they know that with each other, they can do it, right? And it also has kind of this theme of found family.
Absolutely.
Even if your like blood family is you're not close
Right.
to them or they can't help you, you can find family and you can find community
Well,
to fight, you know?
absolutely, and it was interesting because I was listening to a different podcast talking about some behaviors of people that are how they're happy, and they were saying a lot of conservatives are very happy because not because they go to church, but because of the community that they have at church.
Yeah.
And they were saying that when a lot of liberals, when they actually start interacting and they find their community, they find their people, that they actually can become one of the happiest possible people. And it really motivated me because I've been looking for like, okay, how can I get involved more? What can I do more? And the more you find your people that you just are like, we're aligned, even though like the people that are, I'm like, they love a good Lord of the Rings meme. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna send this to you because it's like, it's a small little thing, or, but
Yeah.
it's when you start seeing like, okay, other people lost their family just like I did. They want family just as much as I do. So how do we connect and how do you rebuild that? Because it's out there, right? It's absolutely possible. It's just, we have to do
Yeah.
it
That's
because,
right.
it's almost like we're all being not all, but anybody who feels like I do and maybe other people that are listening do. It's almost like we were all orphaned at once or like
Yeah.
it's happening. And so it's like it's not just a private experience, it's a shared American or shared global
Mhm.
experience of what do I do now? Because it's unnatural to wanna cut off these parts of yourself,
Yeah.
but yet at the same time, it's like a festering wound. How do you keep
Yeah.
it on your body? You
Mm.
can't.
Well, and I've been I've been rewatching Twin Peaks lately, and I really love David Lynch. And some of what he says is very inspiring to me. So, like, for example, one of the quotes from the most recent season of Twin Peaks from his character, Gordon Cole, is fix your hearts or die.
Mhm.
But I love that quote. It makes me feel good. And it's talking about kind of accepting others who aren't like you. And I hope that people can do that. But I think also those of us who are trying hard to do that and live well, the other piece of advice I got from Twin Peaks recently was Agent Cooper says he tries to find a small way to treat himself every day.
First of
Love that.
all, I am behind on watching that show. I've never heard anything but great, great things about it, so I will bump that up.
Yeah, do it. But I
Second,
think it's like a good moral, right? Like,
yes,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
gonna say,
even if you're, like, confronting the most evil things in the world, try
yes.
to find a little joy every day. Give
Yeah.
yourself that gift so that you can make it to the next day.
Well, we're recording right after Benito's Super Bowl, and
Mhm.
just the
Yeah.
resistance, I think, was felt, and I watched several videos today of people watching from Ecuador when they were mentioned,
Yeah.
and people watching from Puerto Rico and just singing, and I mean, like, that feeling that you get at a concert where you just feel the vibes come over and you get the chills,
Yes.
you could feel that through the screen, so Joy just really saying that there is a resistance to that, but
Yep.
so I really that quote of "Fix your hearts or you'll die,"
Or die,
or
yeah.
die, I think that's also for people that are still, like myself, trying to hang on. It's
Yeah.
killing me. So it's like you're gonna have to accept it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes fixing it is if you can't change it, keep it the same way, then what is it? Keep, change, or accept. Try to think back to therapy days. But it's like basically you have to accept this. And that way so you can survive too. And changing your heart or fixing your heart might be fixing it from being sad you know what
Yeah.
and like I love how that ties into your second quote of find little ways to be happy among all of this. And I think
Mhm.
that having moments like talking with you and just hearing how cheerful your voice is, I know that's what having these conversations, I think this is we've always tried to be an insightful and therapeutic, and this is a definitely like a this is me having a therapy horror session.
Yeah.
Can't be the only ones experiencing this.
Yeah.
It is the
No.
horror of the monsters of like and I think that's been the positioning of zombies for a long time. And I'm waiting for the next zombie movie to come out because it feels like I'm walking among zombies or different
Yeah.
pod people or whatever you want to say.
Yeah. It's kinda like, Invasion of the Body Snatchers or something, you know?
Like, and I'm thinking, where are the people that I've always known? And how are these people always safe? And it was crazy because I was saying to Adam, I'm like, when we bought our house like 8 years ago, we bought it for the point that we wanted to, have people over and entertain. And we wanted to have a guest room and we wanted to have people out in the backyard and to come and swim. And it started out that way. And little by little, we live in a deep, deep, deep red like area. And it's like, I don't really want anybody over now. All my friends
Yeah.
are like, I have like one or two, but they all live farther away from me. Like
Mhm.
they've had to move for
Yeah.
different reasons and stuff. And it's just it's almost just like looking at I feel proud, I guess, that we're holding a moral boundary and saying like we're not going to have relationships or tolerate or just like,
Yeah.
say whatever we'll ignore like that you're
Mhm.
okay with the treatment of these things and hang out. But at the same time, it's very I don't know, it was sobering today to think about
Yeah.
how far
How
we've come,
isolated.
how
Yeah.
isolated,
Yes.
and it's like
Totally.
we've been having those discussions of, you know, for a long time it's like, well, we're the blue spot in a red area, so maybe we should stay. But I think it's at a level of just I almost feel polluted. And
Yeah.
I wish that, not that I wanna say I wish I lived in a war zone of, Minneapolis, but I almost wish that I did because when you're talking about the bright side of this, I think about those people every day that they're willing to sacrifice and go for their neighbors for food and to stand out in that freezing cold weather, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"The kind of people I wanna live around." Like,
Yeah.
they wanna be a better person, and then, like, yes, it's hell, but it's a hell that somebody's actually trying to do something in versus here where they're saying, "What are you talking about? Everything's fine. Everything's
Yeah.
great." Just
I
even being
know.
today, my work calls. "So what did you think of the Super Bowl?" I'm like, "I loved it."
Yeah.
Don't come at me,
Yeah.
I'm the wrong person. But
Mhm.
it is, it's
That's
like,
right.
it's and Adam saying not a single kid in his class, they all were talking about
How terrible it was and how their parents turned it,
and
and,
it's
it's
like,
like
Oh my
"You
gosh.
can't even get away with it with children."
yeah.
It's just
I mean,
everywhere. And it's so
Mhm.
anyway, what's your prescription, doctor?
well, it sounds to me like may I also share, I actually have a degree in psychology. So, I am so originally I did want to be a therapist. I didn't end up going that way. I'm in the corporate world now, but I think a lot about human nature and, people end up the way they are and all these things we've been talking about. And I mean, all I can say from my own perspective is like, I feel like you just need to do what you can without losing yourself. So if there are small ways you can make a difference, that's great. Do those things, but also protect yourself because, if you're not there for your family, each other and your kids and those people who you do consider friends, like no one's going to be better for it. So you can't destroy yourself, by with guilt and isolation to the point that you can't show up tomorrow.
This is
So
like
that's what I try to do at least is like
belongs to my heart. Do what you can without destroying
do what
yourself.
you can without destroying yourself. And everybody's line is different, right? Maybe you can volunteer. Maybe you can give money. Maybe you can, talk to someone who's having a hard time. Whatever that looks like, I think you just have to figure out what that is for you.
Yeah, I really feel like doing this podcast and sharing these things and whatnot is helpful in terms of being able to look through the lens of this, and that's one small way. But I think at this point, I'm going to need to do some additional things to continue to fix my heart. Right?
Yeah, and take care of yourself. And
Yeah.
also, I would give you guys credit too. You know, you are reading and you're promoting books, and writing is resistance and it is political. So you're already doing it, even if you're not giving yourself credit for it, right? You're doing the hard work.
Thank you. I think I see other people like really doing a lot and I want to do more. So, I mean, that's just my own personal calling, of feeling like that. And but I'm figuring it out. I'm not staying stagnant. I'm making choices. I'm trying to read a lot. I'm trying to promote a lot of those things. And I did like what I posted about for like, you need to be reading about these things. Like I didn't just make the post. I actually read like I think I made a post of it was like 20 books that you could get on Libby. And I read like 5 of the 20 already, to just say
Great.
I didn't just say, "Hey, you should read these" as like a fun Instagram post to just like be
Mhm.
politically correct. Like I actually was like, I need to read these things. I need to walk the walk. And I could not believe how many things that I already felt like I was so aligned and such an ally and how much more I had to learn and how much better I am for doing that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's work, but it's the right work.
It is. Some of it was very, very painful and
Yeah.
just realizing like the harm that has happened. And I feel like even now after they're sharing books with, like, the stuff in relation to Bad Bunny of being like, House of Bone and Rain, why it was
Yeah.
such an
Iglesias,
oh my
yeah.
god, and just the things
Yeah.
that I learned in the like, and, seeing Cynthia Plyo talk about her experience, and then
Mhm.
Nancy Worth was like, "I had this experience," and just looking at, just different people being brave enough to stand up and share their stories now, I just feel like there is a lot of positive things, Angela, and I need to stay focused on that. So thanks for getting me reset.
It's hard though, I will say. I have my own internal battles about it for sure. And I think, I'm constantly trying to like identify and interrogate my own privilege because I do have it.
For sure.
We all do, but, not enough people probably think about that. And maybe that's the source of some of our problems of, a lack of empathy.
I mean, it was really like even when I was reading some of the books and I told Adam, I'm like, I said, my ears are hot. I feel sick. I'm so upset. And I was like, but I don't want to close the book because that shows that like I have privilege to just say this book is bothering me, but other people are living this, you
Mhm.
know,
That's
and
right.
recognizing that.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask because it kinda goes into this in terms of, like, that identity and fixing yourself. One thing that I found really interesting in this book, and it really kinda gave me I don't know if it's PTSD or whatever, but, like, I think so many people can relate to a friend getting into a relationship with someone that seems like the antithesis of everything they always said they were, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly they're liking things that it's like, "Wait, what are you doing?" They're acting these ways and stuff, and it's like, on one hand, it's like, I think Nate's using Trish, in this relationship to heal in a way,
Yeah,
but
totally.
at the same time, it's like, are you healing yourself when you're not being yourself, right?
Yeah. Which is a oh gosh, yeah. We've all seen friends in those kind of relationships,
Right,
right?
and I'm sure we've been that friend in certain times
Uh-huh.
too, but it's just like the way that you did that, I think was so interesting and so, like, I could just relate to it so much where it's like I think the moment that got me the most was they're in, Reeling's house and it's like the spring break comes on, and it's the Backstreet Boys,
Yep.
and, like, it's like I can remember so well, obviously me and my friends way too cool for something like that and, like, making fun of it, and it's like the idea of a friend being like and it's like, "Oh, you're selling out," and it's like, it's so much, and then, you have Trish, like, it's like, "Are you nice?" You know? It's like, "I don't know, man, because then it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry for all this." It's like, "We'll get out of here." "Yeah, it really was a couples thing," It's like and all
Yep.
this stuff, And it's just very much like, even when you're trying to be nice, it's like as soon as you do it, like they say or do something that you're like, "Oh, I wish I hadn't have been nice." Like, you get that so well, and then obviously everything goes to hell, but I think that that really kind of showed again where it's like, you have one person that is and, I know it's like the books were a couple years in between, but, like, in the story, this is 3 months, which is not
Yeah,
very
it's
long.
not long. Yeah.
It is not long at all, and Nate kinda being like, "Dude, snap out of it." Like, to a point, it's like, "Really?" Like, it's like, "Are you being a good friend right now?" It's like, "Come up to Winnipeg to the Holodome," which what a great detail.
Fucking holodeck.
What a
Oh my
great
god.
detail.
Just wanted to stay at one and I never got to, so I think it was like wish fulfillment.
I worked at a regular Holiday Inn when Ed and I first got together, and there was a
Yes,
Holodome
on the
across
other side of town,
and the
yeah.
number of people that showed up at this one, and I was like, "It's not
This isn't
no,
the
this
whole
is not
Oh,
the fucking cool one, okay?"
yeah, and they're like, "No!" So, yeah,
yeah.
I love that. That's great.
And
Like,
to listeners that don't know what the Holodome is,
it's a dome with the holiday no.
it usually has a pool
The pool
in the
blockers and
center, and,
mhm.
like, it's all surrounded, like, the doors open
Yeah.
into it, and
It's like Polly Shore's Biodome, except it's a hotel.
Yep, that's right. It's like a little amusement park almost or
Uh,
something.
so yeah, it's so cool. And about that found family, I just wanted to say before we got off, the very first scene in this book, I thought I was going to be very, very angry at you, uh,
Yeah,
because of
with
what happened.
Calvin,
So I was like, "Really? So you just make me like this guy at the end of the first book?"
he takes a while to grow on you.
But yes, no, I love that's such a great cliffhanger opening, like, what a great way to start to get us back into, like, this world, but then at the same time be like, "Wait a second," like, the stakes, it's like, "Okay, where nothing's sacred," or
Yep,
so you think,
that's
you
right.
know?
well, I can't wait to take my turn to read
Yes.
this because just what I was reading to you,
Mhm.
was like it reads so well, and I will tell you too that, Chopping Spree,
Oh,
came up this weekend.
yes.
Our youngest was trying she's like, "I'm really
She's
in the mood
finding
to
a book,
read."
yes, and that's what I was like, "You need to read Chopping Spree then."
That's great.
Oh, hell yeah, like,
Just the cover she loved so
it
much.
was between you and Dancing the Spiders, and she was like, "I really like them both," and it was
Yeah.
like, "Well, you can read both. They're
Yeah.
That's right.
you don't have to pick one or the other, but"
In a doomsday death cult in a different way in that one, right?
Yes,
Hopefully that's not
That's
yes.
right, yes. Apparently, I'm obsessed with cults.
and I'm obsessed with them too, so I'm right there with you.
So it was good. We got the whole family involved is what I'm
Yep.
saying. So what
I
should
love
we
this.
So Frostbite out now, Chopping Spree out now, obviously too. Cold Snap March 17th, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what else do we have? Anything to look forward to that
besides
you might
seeing you
be
at Stoker?
Yes.
I know I'm so excited to get to see you at Stoker. And publishing wise, mostly I just have a bunch of short stories coming out this year. So if people keep an eye on my socials and my Instagram, they'll see them when they're announced. But I have a story coming out in a Shirley Jackson tribute anthology, which I'm really excited about. Because obviously, like, GOAT. So I'm
Yeah,
excited for that.
we have
And
all Castle.
Yeah.
I just finally
yeah,
saw it and
so good.
it was good.
It's
When
really good.
I rented it from Libby.
son of a gun.
I
Okay.
did. Listen, I am
I do live here, I swear.
the Libby membership is free obviously from the library.
Yes.
Where the fuck it's at? Let me tell you, because I was saying to my one friend that I know, she's like, "Well, I have to get everything on Kindle Unlimited," and I was like, "I mean, you could." I was like, "Or you can do Libby," and she's like, "What do you mean?" I was like she's like, "I read like 150 to 200 books a year. It's the only sustainable way I can do it." And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, you can do it with Libby." And they didn't know, and I was like, "You need to go get your library card right now."
Yeah, and you
And
can do audiobooks and regular books and
absolutely. Now,
yeah.
I haven't done this, but I have seen people post about this. And there are Facebook groups that are just, like, geared towards Libby as well, but apparently you can pay, like, $35 to, like, go to, like, multiple different libraries, and, like, there is no such thing as a hold list anymore.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And I'm like, "I'm willing to pay that money for it," but, like, at the same time, my holds, I try to stagger them so that
Yeah.
they keep coming in. Like, I'm fed every, like, 2 to 4 weeks with something I've been waiting for, but
Yeah,
there's always so many good things, and, yeah, anyway, the point is, like, the reading on that is so good, and I encourage you if you haven't downloaded it, it's not tricky, it's not hard, it's just so easy, and it's wonderful. But
totally.
yes, I read that, so I'm very interested in checking out the rest of the Shirley Jackson, so knowing that you have the short story for that, really makes me want to read some more. Now, have you been, like, a traditional, like, of that style or the Gothic, like
Well, sometimes I think it's pretty varied, but Shirley Jackson, I remember reading The Lottery when I was pretty
oh, yeah,
young.
uh-huh.
So that was kind of a formative experience. So getting to write something for that is awesome. And then for some reason, I'm also writing a lot of monsters lately, go figure. And so I have a couple of other stories coming out this year dealing with various monsters. There's a monster called Mr. Chew and another one called The Bunny Man. Yeah, I
Oh,
just have several stories coming out this year I'm hoping people are going to love.
I am, just the names, like Mr. Chew, like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not
gross. I don't
yeah, I'm
like
not
it.
really sure what
That
yeah.
sounds very much like a Buffy villain, and I love that.
And just like the Bunny Man, it sounds so innocuous, but it's
Yeah,
not, like,
probably not. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
love it. As an original Bunnicula reader
You know,
Bunnicula.
but Nicola raised us,
yeah,
Yeah,
but Nicola walked so Goosebumps could run, right?
that's right.
this
Oh,
Also
Amelia,
great.
he
come
was,
on.
like, neurodivergent and not ever
I
taught
think we all can recognize that we felt like we screwed everything up all the time, so
yeah.
Yes,
definitely.
100%.
I can't wait to check out the additional stories and to read. I saw that I reposted today that Cool Joey writes. Wow, he had read it and posted on
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
a
so
good
yeah, very
yes.
nice review. So the things are super positive. I got to tell you, like it's just the writing style is great of what I have already
Mhm.
checked out from the and just I'm ready to go.
Thank you so much.
And this is the time. If you're not reading
That's
it in
right.
the dead of winter, what are you doing? Come on. So, you can at least get caught up before March 17th, so let's
There
go,
you
people.
go. Let's
That's right.
go. That's
Read
it. Look,
Frostbite now and then read
just
Cold
the one
Snap when it comes
small
out.
joy you can do for yourself is read this book.
Yeah,
That's right. And some evil people will get punished in it. You know.
exactly.
That can really be cathartic right now
If
for
you
everyone.
That's
ever
right.
get revenge on that mean girl from your high school, then you certainly can enjoy Frostbite, so,
Now,
That's
yes.
right.
see, you should have led with that in the pitch. So,
They're always named Brooke too, aren't they?
yeah, you could just see
Gosh, right?
they have a boyfriend named Tanner or
Sorry
Cody or
sorry, Brooke.
Yes.
Any nice Brooke that's listening to this, I'm so sorry. However, you didn't name yourself, I know.
well, Angela, it's been a tremendous pleasure. Thanks so much, and we're always gonna be here to support what you do because we have your sticker of chopping spree on our
Mm,
Yay.
laptop,
yeah,
yep.
we're invested. We've
Mhm.
loved you for a while before we had you on the show, so thanks again for
Well,
joining.
thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. You're both lovely, and it was the perfect way to spend my evening.
Same.
Oh,
Thanks
yes.
so much for the community.
Thank you.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.